Good evening and salutations, my YNR fans. So, I would definitely have to sit there and say this was, again, one of the better episodes, even though that they did something in this episode that I'm just like, are you, are you kidding me? Now, before this happened, everyone at this point probably knows who DC Sanctuary is. He was practically telling me a story about how there was going to be a custody battle, a custody fight between Divine and Chance, or Divine and Chance, or whatever. And then in the end, they just dropped it. They just no, it's whatever. And it seemed like it was going to be really good, really juicy, really intense. And for the life of people, they just decided to drop it. Okay? And from what I understand, a lot of people were disappointed. I bring that story up because this episode, when Chance comes over to talk to Nick, Nikki, Victoria, and Vicky. And Victor. I knew I was going to sit there and mess up on that name at some point. But anyway, when he comes over there to sit there and talk to the family, he's like, you know what, listen, this isn't a discussion. This is just, I want you to hear me out. And he presents them with two scenarios. The first scenario involves, again, punching them by accident, um, and then them calling the cops, and then Ashland somehow getting up, getting to his car, and getting to a car accident or whatever, and then, the ravine and everything. So that was the first scenario. The scenario that they're telling him that that's what happened. That after Nick punched him, he got up, he was in a daze, he got in the car, and, his wounds or whatever, got the best of him, and he wound up crashing his car. The second scenario involves the same thing, except for, well, Ashland dies from hitting his head, and the security team comes in and makes it look like it's an accident. Basically, he's just saying that, yeah, we don't really have a lot, but it's circumstantial evidence at best. We can sit there and try to do something with it. Even though Victor's like, yo, it's circumstantial at best. Go on and try. See what happens. Now, the whole time I'm watching this, and I'm just like, is there a particular reason why no one bothered to call Michael Bolton? Are we all lawyers in the room or something like that? And there's one point where Nick is like, listen, I can't sit there and take this anymore. Jan's like, no, you don't want to say anything without a lawyer. You really don't want to say anything without a lawyer. And he brings that up. He's like, listen, it could be the second scenario where it's a cover up, which is why Nick said that he couldn't live with this anymore. He does. And granted, this is when Victor's sitting there saying, oh, well, this is your family. What are you doing? You forgot, you forgot that you married into this family, like protect the family and everything like that. Or you just gonna act like, like that doesn't matter? No, of course, I didn't like that. Playing the family card. This guy is supposed to be a very principled man. A man of honor and integrity. A man that wants to sit there and close the cases and live up to Ray as an example, as far as closing his cases and things of that nature. Okay, maybe not living up to an example, but the point is, he seems like he's a very principled and upstanding guy. Okay. Now, before Nick, came in to sit there and say something, he looked like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. The pressure from his wife, from his family, his in-laws, and everything like that, from the fact that Ashland was not a good person. And he said this towards the end, that he was a terrible person. He lied about an illness, which I understand it's a story, but it still never really sat right with me. Um, and he caused the family a lot of trouble. And he was gonna sit there. He was very unhinged, and he could have most likely killed Victoria if her big brother didn't sit there and step in. And so he's like, you know what? Listen. He's like, I can probably do this. I can probably do that, but I'm gonna go with option one. And I just kind of stood there like, so what you're doing is you're just going to compromise your integrity. You're going to compromise your integrity. You're going to bend down to the pressure of the people around you that are in your ear telling you just drop it, just let it go, let the family heal. He was a bad person, and I understand that you got the law and your principles and your morals, but what about the family? And I'm just like, so in the end, you just decide to compromise yourself, compromise your integrity and your morals. And you know what this then tells me? It's almost as like they didn't want to go to the legwork of really playing out this story, because I feel like at that point, Victor probably would have wanted him going to jail. He would have wanted something would have wound up happening. I feel like they would have probably tried to throw the book at him. I don't give a damn how good Michael Baldwin is as a lawyer. The fact that you just covered up a crime, you know, um, you interfered with an investigation. They were all complicit. So who knows what's going to end up happening to them, including Sharon, possibly Sharon. But my point is, it's like they didn't feel like going through the legwork to really try to see how the story is going to resolve. And instead, they were like, oh, well, listen, the guy is gone, the partial print, we're not going to sit there and be able to match that. We're not going to be able to match the DNA. And so we'll just let it go. And it just seems like such a cop out, is what it comes down to. Apparently, this isn't the first time YNR decided, we'll let it go. So, to be honest, I'm disappointed that it just ended like that. And I get it. Maybe they would have had to sit there and get a body or whatever, and the actor's already gone. Maybe they just want to sit there and move on to other stories. And I do understand, as I'm sitting there talking about this, there's a lot of stories that just drag on far too long. Far too long. Now, some people even sit there saying in the comment section on Instagram, there's a channel. They're like, oh, can this action storyline just be done? It's so boring, whatever. So there's a lot of reasons why they might just want to just be like, all right, let's just kind of move on. But I don't know. For me, it just feels disappointing. Before that, Victoria's not there asking her family what should she do about the whole Johnny situation with Connor and everything, and Nikki was like, you should sit there and tell him. And Victor's like, no, you should, it's part of the agreement, you tell him when you're ready, you're his parents. And I'm just like, again, the longer that you sit there and you do this, the harder it's going to be, and the more damage it's probably going to cause later on. But sure. Um, Now, Billy and Chelsea are sitting there talking about Victoria and why it ended, and you know, Billy's just like, yo, listen, there was just one thing. It wasn't just one thing that ended us. And basically taking responsibility, so that they're saying that, he was the reason why they ended. It wasn't like it was a mutual thing, and she really did sit there and try to do the best to save him from himself. I don't know how true that is because again, I didn't really watch the Billy and um, Victoria relationship or anything like that, so I have no idea. Um, but I gotta sit there and just take him for his word because, well, again, I just have no idea. Now, one of the things that Chelsea kept Smith there bringing up was the fact that he wasn't being his true self. You know, that he had much more fun. He felt more alive. He felt more energized. He felt more like him when he was doing a podcast, as opposed to him just being the boring, suit. Hell, there was a point that Billy brought up Lily. I don't understand how you can sit there and go with somebody whose name rhymes with yours, but whatever. Um, I can't be the only person that's just like Billy and Lily. It's like, I don't know, on GH. When they had Spinelli and Ellie, it's like, no, let's not, no. Um, but, he brought up the conversation that, you had with Lily. And it was, I wouldn't sit there and say it was an argument because it wasn't like they were shouting and they were going back and forth, but I don't want to so thirsty right now. Pretty much. He was sitting there saying that, maybe Lily has a point as far as my time being divided and what do I really want more? Because Lily, in not so many words, basically sitting there saying you should probably just stop doing the podcast and just focus on work. And Chelsea was like, no, for a couple of different reasons. One, she enjoys doing it, okay? So she doesn't want it to end. Two, again, she feels like Billy is kind of living his best life. He lives his best version of himself when he's on the edge, when he's bad boy Billy or whatever. Um, I'm pretty sure there's a nickname for that, but I can't think of it right now. Um, Actually, it's really not. It's just something that one of my old um, work colleagues used to sit there and say about himself when he got a little sauce. He would sit there and call himself Wild Bill when he was under the influence. Anyway, point is, I think that ultimately she was kind of right. She wasn't. He wasn't really sitting there, rebuffing it a lot. Like, oh, what are you talking about? I love my job or whatever. Or like, no, I love being this new version of myself. He, in not so many ways, he kind of admitted that she was right. Now, in the previews, Chloe, because there got to be another Chloe, um, is looking at Chelsea like, yo, I see the look that you're giving. I see that you look that you're giving Billy like you wanna be with him. I don't know. I haven't really been watching the show this long, but I can tell that Chelsea. Um, I don't want to sit there and say Chelsea is a boyfriend stealer, or I don't know. I'm I'm also sitting there trying to be kind of careful with my words, but as to offend people. But my point is Chelsea. Chelsea seems like the type of person that she doesn't really do boundaries or the way that she kept Cynthia talking about Ray and everything like that. I'm like, you do realize that Ray is actually um married, right? Like she's sitting there having like these sex dreams or whatever about him, and I'm like, boo, what are you doing? Like, come on. Um, and now this whole thing with Billy. Now I get the fact that when they're drinking, they're kind of brainstorming or whatever, as far as ideas go, and to kind of getting him to loosen up. Because part of I guess the appeal about a podcast or pretty much anything that you do as far as social media when you're talking to other people is to be as authentic. Okay, I can't pronounce that word because I'm like super tired, but to be as real as possible. Because when you're real, you're relatable. I'm gonna be honest. I'm like, I don't see any pens or pads or whatever while y'all sitting there doing this brainstorming. It kind of seems like you're hanging out with somebody else's man, but sure, whatever. Um, so it should be. It seems like it's gonna be kind of interesting next week. Now the last scene is with Diane and Jack. Now I didn't hate this scene, but it clearly wasn't as interesting as some of the other stuff. You can tell that Diane still wants to be with Jack. Um, Hell, there's one point where it almost seems like they're about to kiss, and then you realize that it's it's a dream sequence or whatever. It's a little fantasy. But they bond over Kyle. I mean, they bond over Harrison, and Jack is starting to kind of recognize that she's putting in the work to at least try to be a better person. And granted, he's not sitting there trusting her fully, but he does recognize it, and I guess they want to come back from dinner, and Jack was like, "Oh, I'm about to pour myself a drink. Do you want a drink or whatever?" And she was like, "A nightcap," and I'm like, "What is a nightcap?" Listen, I'm not really too sure. I feel like this word was probably used like in the '90s or the '80s by like I don't want to sound like a dick, but people that are older than me. But I don't know when somebody sits there and say, "Oh, okay, you wanna come upstairs for a nightcap," it's like, the hell does that mean? I mean, and granted, I don't know. I guess I wasn't sitting there trying. Maybe in my head, because I'm thinking about this episode of Seinfeld when George was on his date and this woman was like, "Hey, you want to come upstairs for coffee?" And he's like, "Nah, coffee keeps me up." And in reality, coffee was, you know, code word for you know what. Um, but at the time, he was like, "Oh, I just got him in coffee," so I didn't know what nightcap actually meant, and I just like I haven't really heard anyone actually say nightcap in like forever. So it sounds like something along the lines of I don't know VCRs and CD players. Nothing really happens in this scene except you realize that Diane clearly wants to be with Jack. I don't know how Jack feels about her, but I feel like in some ways I don't know when you're sitting there, when you're sitting next to someone and you're kind of in like hand holding like positions or whatever, like you're so close enough that you can just simply lean in and kiss or hold their hand or whatever. I guess I'm just looking at this like, Jack, where do you want this to go? Because I have a feeling like in some ways it's like he's giving her mixed signals. I could be wrong about that. I could be totally off base, but inviting her for a nightcap and getting all really close and asking her, "Oh, what do you want? What do you really want from this or whatever?" And it's like, what do you want her to say? Like, but in the end, when the I guess when her little fantasy was over, she said something along the lines of, "Oh, I don't like to sit there and make promises because I like to be able to dream of something." It was actually a nice quote. I gotta sit there and rewind it to hear what she said, but I think in reality, it's just like she doesn't want to sit there and say she has feelings for him. In case he doesn't have it back, he can still sit there. She can still sit there and have that dream, have that fantasy. And I guess it's a saying about having a crush. You can always sit there and fantasize about something, but the minute that you tell that person and they may not feel the way that you feel, that fantasy is done. So I don't know. I guess in a sense that's probably what she was sitting there saying. All along the lines anyway. Anyway, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like that's pretty much about it, or at least the most pertinent information as always. With that being said, I'm gonna go. Now, before I leave, a couple announcements. One, August 22nd is my birthday, and that's just gonna be a damn just gonna chill. Not gonna be doing any reviews or streaming or anything like that, but I will resume. During reviews or whatever, Tuesday through Friday, and I'm still gonna watch YNR and B&B and pretty much everything else. So that's YNR doesn't suck in the beginning, and then I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll watch Tuesday's episode, but most likely, I'm going to be watching all the episodes of, pretty much all the four soaps. And I'm still planning on doing a live stream on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Pacific Standard Time. Um, but I'll make a post about it because I want to make sure that actually my work day is still the same schedule. So we'll put that as like most likely. And I feel like there was something else I had to say, and I can't remember what it is. Yeah, I guess that actually was the two things. One was the live stream too. Um, you know, was the not doing reviews on Monday because it's my birthday, and then throughout the rest of the week, gonna be back at it. And so anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I am so tired, so I'm so sorry that I'm rambling, but yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching. Be safe. Let me know your thoughts on the comment section below, and I will see everyone in the next video. Have a great, safe weekend.